If there were something we could do as a country to prevent, to have prevented the attack on Sunday in Las Vegas, would we do it? If there was actually something we could do, would we do it? And what if there were something we could do that didn't even violate a constitutional right? Would we do it? Generally, after tragedies that this country faces, we oftentimes dive right into a political debate, and generally it's a pretty divided partisan politics as usual. Something a little bit different is happening with this attack, and that is there's some bipartisanship going on, and normally that would be something to be encouraged, but I think it's a little bit misguided in this case, and kind of want to go over that real quick. What I'm referring to is the legislation that's being crafted or may have already been crafted regarding bump stocks. And I'm not going to get into how a bump stock works and everything. You can watch some YouTube videos and Google it or whatever to see exactly what they are and how they operate. I'll just say this: it doesn't turn your gun into an automatic weapon. It's still one trigger pull per projectile at the end of the barrel. So does that. The second thing that I want to tell you about, and this is why it's misguided to say, well, if we were just to have banned bump stocks, then this attack couldn't have happened, or it couldn't have happened in its, the mortality rate wouldn't have been as high, or there wouldn't have been as many people injured had he not had access to bump stocks. The reason that that's folly is because you can bump fire, which is what bump stocks allow you to do. You can bump fire without any modification to your rifle and without any extra equipment. You can do it with just what God gave you, your strong hand, or the hand you use to fire a weapon or to pull the trigger. You can accomplish what a bump stock does with your hand. So we're going to craft legislation to solve this problem that could have prevented this attack, except it doesn't, because you can do it with your hand. Now, I'm not going to get into how you do that, but you can do it with your hand. Probably 30 minutes to an hour of practice at the range, and you can be pretty effective with it. So let that kind of sink in here. There are actually some things that we could do. Now, these are going to sound crazy, and I get that. But if you'll just kind of follow me for a minute, there's a reason that I'm going to give you these examples. So the bump stock thing maybe gets a little bit close to the Second Amendment line, if you will. I'm not sure that it crosses over it, and for the record, I think bump stocks are stupid, so if they were outlawed, it's not going to affect my life. But these things get nowhere near the Constitution in my approximation. Anyway, so we want to stop it. We can't stop it. Here's what we could do. We could disallow high-rise buildings. That's right. If there's no high-rise buildings, say, I don't know, over 4 stories tall. If there's no buildings over 4 stories tall, the murderer in Vegas could not have gotten his vantage point on the 32nd floor, which enabled him to shoot out into the crowd of 20,000 people plus at the concert. So no high-rises. Problem solved. That's a little bit ridiculous. We're not going to obviously outlaw high-rise buildings, even though it would have stopped that attack. We're not going to do that. What if we just, from the 4th floor up, we craft legislation that disallows windows from 4th floor up on any high-rise? So it would be windows. Those are all aesthetic anyway, right? They don't open. So we could do windows up to the 4th floor, and everything beyond that would be solid structure. If the murderer didn't have the visual and ability to, once he broke out the window, to be able to stick his rifle out there and shoot, that would have prevented that attack. So we just simply get rid of the windows. But that does kind of mess with the aesthetics of the building and with the beauty of construction and all that jazz. So what if we keep the high rises, keep the windows, but we make those windows be ballistic panels? Okay, so they have to be ballistic glass panels in any high rise over whatever, 4 stories. It's not going to be able to be knocked out with a hammer like the murderer did in Vegas. And you're not going to be able to shoot through it, or at least not reasonably able to shoot through it. That would have prevented that attack And it doesn't get anywhere near the Second Amendment. It doesn't get anywhere near the Constitution. What if we disallowed outdoor concerts? If you didn't have an outdoor concert, see, if that concert was held in a facility like a dome or something like that, where the people were protected, then the shooter would not have had a crowd of people to shoot into. So if we just disallow outdoor concerts, we could have stopped that attack in Vegas. Well, that's a little bit too far. So what if we just disallowed outdoor concerts within, I don't know, a 1 mile radius of any high-rise building? So he was only about a quarter mile away from where the crowd was, from the 22,000 plus people to the hotel. See, if we extend that range out to a mile, we could have stopped that type of attack. All those things, none of those get anywhere near the Constitution. None of them get anywhere near the Second Amendment. And those things actually would have impacted that particular type of attack. But why don't we do those? Why don't we do those things? What do you think? I have a pretty good explanation for why we don't do those things, and why we often turn to things like a weapons accessory that basically its banning just makes people feel good who thinks it's going to help when it's not. We live in a country that has freedoms like nowhere else on earth. We have liberties that people in other countries can't even imagine. Part of the cost of that freedom and those liberties is the realization that we're sacrificing a significant level of safety to have them. You can't have freedom and safety all the time. It just doesn't work that way. I think it was Jefferson that said, "He who is willing to sacrifice freedom for security deserves neither." There could be another country on the face of this planet that has no murder, okay? Let's just say it's England. Let's say there's no murder in England, or statistically there's no murder in England. It's the safest place on earth. However, you're not going to have the freedoms you have here. You're going to live under, their law, their constitution, their parliament. Would you do that? Would you go over there because you could be safe? I don't know if a lot of us think about where we live in this fashion, but we all are making a conscious or subconscious decision to live here in the United States. We don't have to stay here. So when I look at it and I say, I could look at the statistics all day long and say, yes, absolutely, England is statistically safer than the United States of America. And I'm still going to choose to stay right here in the United States of America because I want the freedom and liberties that we have here. And I am willing to forego a significant level of security to have those freedoms. And my assumption is that if you're here in the United States, you're in the same boat as me. That you've thought about that and that you're willing to say, you know what? I get that evil people are going to do evil things. And here in the United States of America, evil people that want to do evil things are going to have access to the same weapons that I have access to. And that's going to allow those evil people to have the potential to hurt a lot more people than maybe in other parts of the country. I get that. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it because I want the freedoms that we have. I don't want to change us into England. I don't want to change us into Australia. Why would we want to be the same as somebody else? If somebody else has it figured out and they have a perfect society, then why would we not just go over there and let America continue with her experiment? Because that's what we are. We're just a big experiment. And I don't know how long it's going to continue, But we have got to stop looking at legislation to fix our problems. You're not going to fix it. You're not going to fix evil. This is just life. Those things are going to happen. And that might sound insensitive, and I don't mean it to come across that way. But it is a cost of the freedoms that we have. I hope that kind of some of the stuff I brought up here maybe makes you think a little bit about the decisions that our legislators are making, some of the outcrying from the right and from the left, some of the dealing with the bump stock, and what actual legislation could have been enacted that might actually have changed things, and how ridiculous it sounds. I hope all that stuff makes you think a little bit. I'm eager to hear what you think. Please leave me a comment, a question, whatever you want to say. Agree or disagree. Thanks for watching.